Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I've been out of ideas for a while. After 20 years of doing the same kind of loving, paying the mortgage, coaching spring soccer, buying the cheap mulch instead of the good stuff and regretting it every June, I felt like most of my good surprises had been used up by the time our daughter, Claire, learned to drive. But this one felt right. Melissa had a work trip, the kind with the quotes around it, to Phoenix for training. 4 nights. She'd be home Thursday evening. On Wednesday afternoon, I told Claire I was going to run a pre-dawn airport drill and pick her up a day early. We laughed about it. Claire rolled her eyes and called me corny, which is her version of a hug. We drove to Melissa's parents' place and dropped Claire off with a duffel of homework, a charger, a bag of pretzels, and the sort of instructions you give grandparents who raise the person you married. "Don't let Pop spoil her," I said to Evelyn, who had already hidden a pan of brownies behind the bread box like contraband. "Let me be good at the one thing I'm still good at," she said, and kissed my cheek. "Text when you land," said Bob, the kind of father-in-law whose whole love language is a full tank of gas and a second set of jumper cables. "You sure you don't want me to go with you? Airports at night are a young man's sport." "I'm 44, I said. "That's what I said," he said, and winked. I left Claire there, her hair in a messy bun and her math notes spread across the table like she was planning a heist. "Be nice to Nana and Pop," I said. She didn't look up. "They're nice to me." "Right," I said. "Be mild to them, then." "Dad," she said, and smiled sideways. "Drive safe. Don't embarrass anybody at the airport." "I can't make promises I can't keep," I said. I was a half-hour early to arrivals, which is how I do airports. Arrivals is a theater I've always liked, people shaking snow off their sleeves, little kids going nuclear in the best way, the woman who cries the second she sees the friend she pretends she doesn't miss all year. I bought a coffee that tasted like burned hope and found a spot by the sliding doors where I could see the escalator spit people into the lobby. The big board said the Phoenix flight had just landed. I imagined Melissa spotting me there, a day early, no lift to order, no dragging a roller bag to the curb alone. I pictured the text bubbles I'd sent Claire, mission accomplished. I let myself enjoy it. The escalator delivered a wave of travelers, guy in a golf shirt with a tan he didn't earn in a yard, family in matching sweatshirts that said Sedona in a font that looked like it used to be a cactus, a woman with a sleeping toddler draped over her shoulder like a deflated backpack. Then Melissa, navy blazer, white sneakers the kids call clean, hair pulled into a low ponytail that means business. She didn't see me at first. She was looking at the man beside her. They were holding hands. It didn't register like a movie. No dramatic crash of cymbals, no zoom on the fingers, no slow-motion flipping of my life. It registered like a misread sign on the freeway, a split second of denial, then the realization that the exit you were aiming for is already behind you. He was tall in the way men get when they don't slouch because they haven't learned to be afraid of anything. Late 30s, maybe. Suit jacket that looked like it had been rolled at the shoulders and then stood up and smoothed out anyway. He carried Melissa's tote with the easy generosity of a person who knows he has already been granted permission. They moved through the crowd unhurried. Melissa laughed at something he said. It was the laugh I hadn't heard in a while, the one that lifts at the end like a question. They crossed the tile and headed past me toward the parking garage, and it wasn't until they were close enough to belong in my air that she noticed me. Her smile collapsed. His mouth went tight, like a man bracing for a wave he can jump. "John," she said. Not a greeting. More like the name of a storm on the horizon. "Surprise," I said. It came out small. We stood there, 3 people who had been standing in different corners of the same room for months and didn't know it. I looked at their hands. They were no longer holding. "John," she said again. I didn't want the story there, under fluorescent lights, between a kiosk selling phone cases and a man who had lost a hat that didn't fit him anyway. I didn't want to turn us into a warning for the couples already holding their breath, waiting to exhale at welcome home. I wasn't ready to find the right line. So I found the only one I had. "Claire's at your parents'," I said. "I'm here to bring you home." The man, he had the kind of jaw you resent on sight, shifted like he was about to speak. I lifted a hand. "Not from you," I said. Please. He nodded like a person who has been told things that sound like orders and knows when to follow them. Melissa exhaled. Can we talk not here? Yes, I said. Not here. We walked to the parking garage in silence, the kind of silence that steps around things. I led them to my car. The man peeled off toward a row of black sedans, slowed, turned back. I'll go, he said, to Melissa. Text me when you're. He trailed, finally aware there is no good end to that sentence. He looked at me, eyes steady, not hostile. I'm sorry. I didn't look at his face. No, I said. Not to me. I put Melissa's bag in the trunk. Closed it gently, because slamming is for doors that get to be blamed. We got in the car and drove out into the kind of early evening that forgets what season it is. The highway home was a ribbon of red tail lights and white puffy exhaust and the usual angry ballet of lane changes. I put the radio on low, sports talk, the kind of white noise that makes you think there are still rules in the universe. Melissa stared straight ahead, eyes doing the hard work of being open. John, she said, like she was tapping a mic. Don't, I said softly. Not yet. I took the second exit instead of the first and pulled into a strip mall lot where a nail salon and a sandwich shop argued about lighting. I cut the engine. Okay, I said. Now. She laughed once, the sound a person makes when she realizes the script she rehearsed all afternoon is for a different play. His name is Andrew, she said, as if that was a favor. We met at the regional training in September. It was work-adjacent friendships. Coffee after sessions. Too much honest talk in airports. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was alive again. I told myself, she stopped. I told myself lies. How long? I asked. There are only a few questions that matter, and even they don't matter the way you hope. Since October, she said. I ended it last week. She held up a hand, not to ask me to stop, but the way people swear oaths in court. I did. I told him I wouldn't do this anymore. He wanted to talk. He asked to fly back on the same return. I didn't say no. She winced. I should have. I looked at the windshield like it was a horizon I could walk into. I'm glad I saw it, I said. I surprised myself. I don't think I could have untangled a lie this size with screenshots and long paragraphs. She nodded once. Me too, she said, and I hated her and forgave her a little for that answer. Claire is at your parents', I repeated, because facts are rails to hold. She thinks I drove there because I couldn't wait. We need to decide who tells them what and when. Tonight or tomorrow. My parents first, she said. They should hear it from me. I agree. I turned the key. No theatrics at their kitchen table. If we can help it. We drove to her parents'. The porch light was on, bobbing our way like a dot of faith. Evelyn opened the door before we knocked, because mothers have radar for the story that has started without them. You're early, she said to Melissa, delight ready to be deployed. It died when she saw our faces. Oh. Bob stood up from the chair that has taught his back to be faithful and put a hand to the small of it the way he does when he's about to do something hard. Everything okay? Claire in the den? I asked. Evelyn nodded. Doing the algebra you people didn't do in high school. Can we talk in the kitchen? Melissa said. Just the four of us. For a minute. Evelyn led us in like a hostess to a room that has seen 1,000 meals and a handful of wars. Bob sat at the end of the table like a foreman. Melissa didn't sit. She told them, in the way you tell good people bad things, no excuses, no villainizing, the facts like stones placed in a row. Andrew's name didn't matter. The hotel didn't matter. The flight didn't matter. The hand-holding mattered, and the way it had been happening in her head for longer than any of us wanted to admit. Evelyn put her hand to her mouth and closed her eyes the way Catholics do when someone else is praying. No, she said into her palm, a quiet no that wasn't a refusal of reality so much as a protest against the wasted courage. Bob looked at me first, which is why I love him. You okay? He asked. No, I said. But I'm the kind of not okay that can drive. He nodded and turned to Melissa. You apologize to your husband, he said. It wasn't scolding. It was a sentence like "put the fire out." "I'm sorry," she said to me. It was not a gesture. It landed. Evelyn exhaled a century. "Claire," she said, eyes slick, "what about Claire?" "We'll tell her," I said. "Tonight or in the morning. Together, if she wants. Separate if she needs a referee." I looked at Melissa. "I don't want her to feel like she has to chase our feelings around the house with a butterfly net." Evelyn cried then, the kind of cry that comes from the bottom of the person. Maybe it was for her daughter, maybe for a girl upstairs doing algebra while the real equations happened without her permission. Claire came to the kitchen doorway like a person who knows when an important conversation is failing to stay quiet. "Is everything okay?" she asked, and immediately knew the answer. I gestured to the table. "Can we sit?" I asked. "We have to tell you something hard." She came in, pulled out a chair that sounded too loud on the linoleum, and sat. She looked at me because I am her father and still her map. "Mom and I hit a wall," I said, simple. "It's complicated, and it's also not at all. Your mom got too close to someone she works with. I found out today. We're going to talk to a counselor. She's going to stay at Nana and Pop's tonight. You're going to decide where you want to be. You don't have to carry any grown-up feelings to help us. You don't pick sides. You pick what keeps you okay." Claire stared at the table for a whole minute. She made the face she made when she was 5 and couldn't figure out a puzzle until she did. She looked at Melissa. "Did you?" "Yes," Melissa said. "I'm sorry." Claire nodded in the tiny, tragic way teenagers nod when they just moved to a new country without having packed. "Okay," she said. "I don't want to go home tonight." "You don't have to," I said. "I'll go get your stuff tomorrow." She nodded again, a little relieved that decisions could be that small. Pop," she said, turning to Bob because he is the person who taught her to ride a bike and to curse when no one else is listening. "Do you have the good cereal?" "Do I have the good cereal?" he said, offended, and got up to get it like she had asked for the moon and he'd been keeping it in the pantry. I drove home alone. The house looked like it always does when it's about to teach you something you didn't ask to learn, lights we forgot to turn off, shoes by the door like stutter steps. I went through each room and switched off whatever didn't need to be on. I took our framed photo from the hallway, Chicago, 15 years ago, the bean behind us, Melissa in a hat that made her look like a French tourist, and set it down on the entry table face down. I didn't break it. There's time for shattering, there's also time for turning things over until you can face them again. In the morning, I called a counselor. My friend Chris's recommendation after his own marriage nearly took on water and didn't sink. The receptionist was gentle like people are when they've seen 1,000 versions of this call. "We have an opening Thursday," she said. "I'll take it," I said. "And we'll need a family slot for next week." "Monday at 5, she said. "It's yours." I also sent an email to HR because that is what the handbook says to do when relationships happen around the company. I didn't write Andrew's name because I didn't trust what my fingers would do. I wrote fax. I asked for a conversation about next steps with confidentiality and decency. My hand shook when I hit send and then stopped. Melissa texted just after 9, "I'm at my parents'. Claire is quiet but okay. Thank you for last night. For not making it worse." I typed, "We'll save worse for professionals." I deleted that. I wrote, "We'll try to do this right for Claire." She wrote back a heart and then, "I'll be at counseling. I'll do whatever it takes." I believed her for an hour at a time. It was enough. That afternoon, I drove to her parents' to drop off Claire's phone charger and her favorite hoodie. Evelyn met me at the door with a Tupperware like it was a flag. "Lasagna," she said. "I know what I can do." "You've always known," I said, and meant everything and nothing. Claire and I walked around the block. She kicked a stick like it owed her money. "I hate this," she said. "I hate that I have to be the one who knows." "You don't have to be the one who understands," I said. "You get to be the one who eats lasagna and watches terrible TV for a week." She laughed, small and real. "Okay," she said. "Deal." "Do you want to talk to Mom tonight?" I asked. She shrugged. "Maybe tomorrow," she said. I don't want to make a face I can't change yet. We started counseling on Thursday. The office had neutral paint and a plant that looked like it had heard everything. The therapist, Mara, had the kind of voice you wish you had in your head when you were about to say something regrettable. She asked for the facts. I said them. Melissa said hers. We did not argue about the adjectives. Mara talked about rupture and repair, and I tried to keep my eyes from translating those into repair manuals and busted hoses. Trust is not a feeling, Mara said. It's a practice. You stop lying. You stop hiding. You make yourselves very boring for a while. I can do boring, I said. I've been doing boring. Melissa said, I've been doing interesting, and I broke us. We built a scaffolding. Melissa stayed with her parents. Phones open. Calendars shared. No contact with Andrew. If he reached out, she'd tell me and forward whatever he wrote without commentary. She gave HR her version. They told her to avoid any projects involving him. They told him the same. I did not ask for a public flogging. I asked for walls. Claire came for the last 10 minutes of the second session. She sat with her hood up. I'm here so you can stop guessing about what I know, she said. I'm mad. I'm also scared. I'll be less of both later. I don't want anyone to pretend to be okay for my sake. Thank you, Mara said, because sometimes the job is just to honor the courage of sentences. We got through the first week on leftovers and autopilot. In the second week, Melissa came by the house to pick up winter clothes while I was there because that's the version of accountability we could live with. She looked at the photo I'd turned face down and turned it back up. You can break it if you want, she said. Not yet, I said. On a Tuesday night, Claire asked if her mom could come to her orchestra winter concert if she sat in the back and left early. She should hear us butcher Vivaldi like everybody else, she said. Melissa sat on the aisle. She cried in a way only I could see. She left before the applause because she promised she would, and then she texted, she sounded brave. I wrote back, she is. On a Saturday morning, Bob came over to help me fix the broken gate that had been threatening to fall since August. He brought his old drill and the patience of a man who knows grief is a nail you drive straight and slow. We didn't talk about Andrew. We talked about screws and how the wood had warped and what kind of stain actually earns its price tag. When we finished, he put a hand on my shoulder like a benediction and said, "You're a good father." It didn't fix anything. It helped. A month in, Melissa asked if she could come home for dinner twice a week, no overnights, because we need to learn how to be in the same room without turning it into a courtroom. I said yes, and then I said the sentence I never thought I'd need to say, if you lie, we're done. She nodded and said, if I lie, I'm already done. One night, after one of those dinners where everything is ordinary and therefore exhausting, Claire looked at us over her pasta and said, I'm not ready to forgive. But I am ready to stop being surprised. It was the kind of sentence that rearranges furniture in your soul. Me too, I said. Melissa nodded like she had been waiting for the right job description. I don't know where we end. Maybe we rebuild and the house gains a crack you can trace with your finger like a map of where we've been. Maybe we separate and become two smaller homes that both leave the porch light on for Claire. Maybe we do both for a while, which is what most people do. Build and separate and try again in overlapping seasons until the calendar tells the truth. I know this, the airport is still there. People still rush the sliding doors with flowers and ridiculous signs. I can stand there again one day and not hate the sounds. I can answer the phone when Melissa's name lights it up and not feel like my ribs are keys someone else is playing. I can sit at her parents' table and take lasagna and offer to bring Tupperware back, and Bob will say, keep it, and Evelyn will say, bring me the good one. The work now is small and boring. It looks like phone chargers not forgotten. It looks like Claire's hoodie getting warmed in the dryer before a cold bus stop. It looks like sending a screenshot of a calendar entry you were going to put in anyway. It looks like buying 2 toothbrushes for the guest bath and not making the gesture into a poem. If you ask me what I learned, I can give you a list because lists let me pretend I can inventory the heart. Don't do your big surprises in public unless you're ready for a public outcome. The truth hurts less when it has a face. If a kid has to hear it, let them hear it once, with kindness, and then stop making them listen. Some apologies don't buy you anything except the chance to keep apologizing better. Boring is a blessing. Love is not loud. The work that keeps it is. On a Wednesday, Claire asked if we could get Mexican takeout and watch the bad holiday movie she loves. Melissa came over and brought chips and the salsa that hurts. We sat on the couch and Claire put her feet on my lap and then on her mother's, alternating like the child she still is. In the middle of the movie, Melissa looked at me and mouthed, "Thank you." I nodded. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just a man saying yes to the next right thing, one scene, one small bowl of salsa, one boring night at a time. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.